Today, everyone should study Kabbalah and Chassidut, and we have been given the green light to do so. I mean, even if you have a look at the Rebbe Rashab founding Tomchei Tmimim, it was a yeshiva system where for the first time studying Chassidut was part of the core curriculum for the young students, whereas prior to that they had only spent time studying Talmud, the legal dimension of Judaism. So that began to open things up, and I think that it's because the world has become more refined. And I'll come back to that, but what's relevant to pause on is the idea that something shifts at the age of 40. The Mishnah in Ethics of Our Fathers gives us what happens at 20-something, 30-something, 40-something, etc. So 40 is for Bina, understanding. 50, you can start to give advice, and in your 60s, it says Lezikna, you've reached old age, but it's also Zeshekana Chochma, the one who has acquired wisdom. And I'm in my 40s. I definitely see that there's a difference in the whole gestalt of how you look at life. You just need a couple of decades under your belt to have a perspective. Or now I begin to think about wisdom differently. The Alter Rebbe discusses it in Tanya when he speaks about the letters of thought. Machshava, thought is not the same as wisdom, certainly. Wisdom is much more abstract and rarefied. Bina would be less abstract than that. Regardless, what I'm saying is that there are changes that happen, and probably our sages they certainly had that in mind, that a person had to reach a certain level of consciousness in order to be able to access and plummet the wisdom. However, the Rebbe has taught us the concept of midgets on the shoulders of giants. And one of the ways that I think of the world is being in a state of a spiritual sweat. You know, even the word dream, chalam, is from the word choleh, also achlama, a amethyst. So dreams are like a shining of the consciousness to the self, but they're also spiritual sweat. And the world has been going through a process of spiritual sweat. I love going into saunas and detoxing that way, and what happens is that all the toxins come out. It looks like your body's more beschmutzt, more dirty than it was, but it's much cleaner on the inside. And in some ways, when we look at the world today, it looks like it's so much worse than it was, kind of less connected. But I think deep on the inside, it's much cleaner. And because of that, and given the notion of midgets on the shoulders of giants, even if we're not 40, we can access the wisdom of Kabbalah and Chassidus. And I am involved in a very broad demographic of Jewish communities, and I see how the Baal Shem Tov's teachings, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's teachings, the Arizal's teachings, have reached far and wide. It's almost like become common parlance, and it's part of the discourse, just maybe coming from a different place. So the world now, you know, to study the Baal HaTanya, that's cool, just maybe the Rebbe is still done in secret. But the world is changing, it's shifting. We've schwitzed off the impurities. I'll just mention as a last thought on that, one of my favorite teachings from the previous Rebbe. He says that without hot and cold water, you can't make progress in life. I think the hot water are the tears and the cold water are sweat. You know, there's the notion of blood, sweat, and tears. You got to put in your effort and cry the tears of just breaking down the heart. And then that brings us to a new Gan Eden.
Moment
of Wisdom. Sub-brief and life-changing moments. Join us. Subscribe to Moment of Wisdom channels on YouTube, Telegram, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp.